when I walk into Miami spring practice for the first time, there's a true freshman that I'm going to be looking for immediately, and I don't think I'm going to have a difficult time locating, and that's Jackson Cantwell.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. I am super pumped for today's episode because we're going to sit down with FIU offensive line coach, former longtime assistant coach and assistant O-line coach at Miami, Edwin Pata, because I want to pick Coach Ed's brain on how to get a bunch of starters on the same page quickly, because that's the situation Miami is going to be in this coming season. And, of course, his breakdowns on guys that he coached and helped develop, like Mauigoa, Big Markel Bell, and Anez Cooper, who are on their way to the National Football League. So we're going to break things down with Coach Pata, and I'm super excited because he's just a beloved fixture in the Miami coaching community, and I cannot wait to talk with him. And, of course, on that note on the offensive line, that very much ties in with something I want to break down with you guys, and I'm going to do this group by group in the next coming episodes. Because every time I walk into the first practice, right, the first spring practice is going to be, I don't know, probably about a month and a half, 2 months away, right? Then you've got the first fall camp practice in early August. Every time I walk into the IPF for the first time for a new practice campaign, there's always certain players who catch my eye, right? I remember walking in last year and immediately seeing true freshman receiver Josh Moore, freshman edge rusher Hayden Lowe, who ended up missing the season with injury but was awesome in practice. Kellen Wiley Jr., linebacker, was another one that I walk in, I'm like, wow, these guys look fantastic already. And so when I hit that indoor facility for the first time, I'm going to scan the room. And I know it's not going to take me very long to find one of the largest people in that room, and that is true freshman offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell. 6'7.5", 325 pounds, #1 recruit in the country in the class of 2026. And I'm going to be looking for Cantwell, and I'm going to make sure that, because sometimes I forget to do this, I'm going to bring my binoculars with me to practice because they always have the media standing at the farthest point away from where the offensive line works out. Like, we're usually right in front of the quarterbacks, receivers, defensive backs, but you got to bring the binoculars to see the offensive and defensive line on the far side of the facility. So I'm going to have those binoculars with me because Jackson Cantwell, first of all, I mean, physically, they don't make too many his size with his BMI, because there's not much body fat on Jackson Cantwell at 6'7.5", 325 pounds. Best player in the country coming out of high school, and Cantwell is going to have his opportunity to be Miami's starting right tackle immediately. That's going to be one to watch, right? How fast can he develop and be ready to be a day one starter, right? Mauigoa 3 years ago was able to seize that opportunity right away. People develop at different speeds, right? For Samson Okunlola, who also came in as a 5-star recruit, it took him a few years before he became a regular and a really good one on that O-line. So I'm going to be immediately looking for Jackson Cantwell. And, on this episode, I want to talk about the true freshmen, early enrollees who will be there in spring, and some of the transfers as well. So Cantwell is a big one on that list. Another one I'm going to be looking for, and I'm going to have my binoculars for this one as well, is true freshman edge rusher Asharri Charles. He comes in off of just a phenomenal high school career at Venice as someone who, kind of my understanding is, this guy could be like day one ready to be part of the rotation. And Miami's going to have a really deep edge rusher rotation. Another Venice player Damon Wilson comes in off of 3 years of college experience and a great season at Mizzou. Marquise Lightfoot, we're really, really bullish on. I mentioned the name Hayden Lowe, Armando Blunt, Booker Pickett Jr., Herbert Scroggins. Like, Miami's got a lot of, second, third, fourth year upperclassmen edge rushers, but a guy like Asharri Charles is going to have his opportunity to potentially shine immediately. That's what I'm going to be looking for. You got 4 receivers coming in. I think the 2 that I'm going to immediately look for, we've been talking a lot, singing the praises of Somourian Wingo coming in out of St. Augustine. He, like a lot of the other guys who were coming in, had the opportunity to get some practices in during Miami's playoff run, and we heard great things about what Wingo was doing on the scout team, that he was like outperforming the guys that he was imitating on the scout team. So Wingo is one I'm going to look for. Vance Spafford is another one, although he's been injured, so I don't know for sure if he's like a day one available. But Milan Paris is another one coming in at 6'6" at receiver, because I remember being really impressed last year with Josh Moore at 6'4", the way he was fighting for contested balls, making one-handed grabs. Milan Paris is going to be the tallest player in that receiver room, so I look forward to see how he looks there. Some defensive backs, guys, because again, I mentioned this, when we're in the media viewings of practice, spring and fall camp, usually the best battles that we get to watch, because it usually happens right in front of us and it's very exciting, when they do the one-on-one drills with quarterbacks throwing to receivers going up against a DB one-on-one, and when we get to see some of the 7-on-7s, DBs matching up with receivers. Those drills are great, and so some of these freshman defensive backs, Jalen Seatbelt Waters, who I know is very close with Coach Will Harris, is going to be a protege of his, a guy he originally recruited to Florida and then to Miami. Camden Portis, who we hear great things about coming out of Myers Park High School in North Carolina. He's the son of Clinton Portis. He wants to make his own legacy at Miami. I'm all for it. Come in and be the even better Portis, right? J.J. Dunnigan, top safety, who I hear a lot of good things about, and I want to see how he performs in that defensive back room in his first spring at Miami. And then, of course, another true freshman I'm going to be immediately looking for is Darion Coleman, just to get a sense of the arm talent of his. There's, of course, the quarterback we're all going to be looking for and talking about and tweeting about is Darian Mensah. But the rest of the room, right? How is Luke Nickel developing, Judd Anderson, and Darion Coleman? Because if you watch the footage of his workouts in high school and the footage of his games at Jones High School, has some of the best natural arm talent I've ever seen. How is that going to translate going up against, former 4- and 5-star players that are 3-4 years older than him in college practices? I can't wait to see that either. Miami, as you'll recall, has a top 10, number 9 class of 2026 coming in, according to 24/7 Sports. And, going back to Jackson Cantwell for a second, Miami fans complain about this all the time. It seems like whenever On3 Sports does a story about how much money programs are allegedly spending, because these are all based on estimates, like how much teams are allegedly spending and what player costs how much, it always seems to come back to Miami for them, and they ignore, the Texases and the Texas Techs and the LSUs and the Oregons, who spend more than Miami does, to my understanding. But, they wrote something on On3 about Jackson Cantwell, who they claim On3 previously reported that he is expected to make over $2 million in year one with the Hurricanes. Oh my God, allegedly. Who knows if that's even the real number, but Jackson Cantwell supposedly is making over $2 million. And On3 in this piece wrote, general managers and staffers surveyed by On3 mentioned multiple names when asked who the highest paid player was in the 2026 recruiting class. 7 of the 13 pointed to Miami 5-star plus offensive tackle commit Jackson Cantwell. Quote, "It's Jackson Cantwell. He's this year's David Sanders," an ACC staffer told On3. Vanderbilt 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis was the second most mentioned recruit. USC 5-star tight end commit Max Bowman was also mentioned by multiple general managers. Sources have told On3 that his total deal value is between 5 and 6.5 million over 3 years. But listen, you know, I guess you could say no publicity is bad publicity. And honestly, Jackson Cantwell, if Miami really is paying him that much, I have a feeling he's going to be worth every single penny. So on tomorrow's episode, I want to focus a little bit more on the transfers because I think they deserve their own segment, like the transfers that I'm going to immediately be watching when I first enter that facility. But coming up next, we will have the pleasure of sitting down with someone who's really beloved by Miami fans, FIU fans, of course, because that's where he's coaching now, and anyone in the South Florida community. Offensive line coach Edwin Pata is going to join us right here on a brand new episode of Locked On Canes. You want to keep it locked.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Number 1 ranked UConn dominated Tennessee 96-66, turning a halftime tie into a historic win and avenging last season's loss by delivering the largest margin in the rivalry's history. AZ Fudd had 27 points and Sarah Strong added 26 as the Huskies remain perfect on the season, reminding everyone why they are the reigning national champions. In the Big Ten, number 2 UCLA rolled past number 8 Iowa 88-65, powered by 22 points from Angela Dukelich and a huge advantage in the paint, staking their claim as a national threat. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. If you consider yourself an everydayer, you want to make that status official by joining the Everydayer Club. Join that all-access tier, and you get exclusive episodes of a show I do called The Canes Colada. You get an exclusive newsletter, one-on-one text access with me, a discount at the Locked On merch store, and so much more. Guys, if you want to join the Everydayer Club, hit that all-access tier. Go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes below and make yourself officially an Everydayer today. We have the privilege of being joined here on Locked On Canes by a man who, for Miami fans and FIU fans, really needs no introduction. Edwin Pata. Coach Ed Pata is with us, FIU offensive line coach, former assistant O-line coach at the University of Miami. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time. How's your week going?
It's going pretty good. Today is actually the first day that we have off. Coach Simmons gave us some time off after the signing day yesterday. So we'll be off all the way through Sunday.
That's great. Enjoy that time off because I know you coaches don't get enough of that. You know, and you're in the unique position of having coached, you know, Miami's offensive line in recent years and being still in the community at FIU. One thing I wanted to ask you, Ed, like in Miami's situation heading into next year, they have talented dudes on the offensive line. We all know that. You probably helped recruit some of these guys that are going to be on that offensive line for next year. They've got tremendous coaching, but they are going to be breaking in about 4 new starters on the offensive line. Can you tell me as a coach, because I'm always fascinated by this, how challenging is it and what goes into getting a bunch of guys who haven't played with each other onto the same page? Because on offensive line, that's more important than any other position.
That's a good question. You know, I think in today's college football, especially now with the kids are being able to come in earlier. Like I know a lot of those freshmen are on campus now. And even during some of the playoff games, they were on campus. So for them to have the opportunity to sit down and actually be a part of the meetings, you saw some of them on the sidelines at the games. I think the big piece for them is just getting the opportunity to kind of learn the system, learn the flow of how Coach Mauigoa teaches, Coach Asharri, and Coach Cristobal. By being part of those meetings, I think that helps significantly, kind of getting the idea of how the philosophy is, the standard in the room, them learning from those older guys that were there, like CC, Coop, Big Kale. I think that helps him with the transition piece of it. And I think also meeting now. I think, I was talking to Coach Murbaugh not too long ago. They have an opportunity now where they can meet with those guys all through this week to prepare them. They get opportunity to start lifting and working out. So I think the biggest piece is them getting the feel as freshmen of how college is. Once they get that feel, once they start meeting with Coach Murbaugh and he sets his standard, which will not take a long time, it's just now just meeting in preparation and just going over it constantly. So it's not as hard as people may think, especially now with the coaching style that Coach Murbaugh has and how much they're going to meet. And then they're going to actually do some drill translation stuff on the field. It won't take long.
Another thing I'm curious about, because I know this is a big thing with Coach Mirabal, how important is cross-training, for these guys to basically learn 4, sometimes even 5 positions on that offensive line?
Oh, it's critical. That's one of the pillars of Coach Murbaugh. And when he introduces himself as an offensive line to any new player, you're going to play all 5. You got to learn all 5. You're an offensive lineman, not a position. And that cross training goes a long way. You can see it in his career how there's guys that were playing, like Jalen Rivers, for example, I can think off the top of my head, played left tackle, left guard for us. And in the NFL, ended up being a starting right guard. And that cross training helps you, especially when you're interchangeable on the offensive line. You're going to play the best 5 or 6 linemen through the season. There are going to be people that get banged up, and you got to be ready to play on either side. So cross training is critical, especially in the offseason. I'm sure now, as they go through summer workouts and drills, that's going to be key for Coach Murbaugh throughout the spring, all the way through summer.
We're talking with Coach Ed Pata. And Ed, when you're at FIU and when you got your opportunity for, a promotion at FIU, I remember my emotions as a Miami fan. I was simultaneously happy for you and also like bummed out, like, oh, I'm not going to see Ed at practices anymore. But, you have an opportunity to lead your own room now. And tell me, like, what did you learn? Biggest things you learned from Coach Mirabal and Coach Cristobal that, helped make you better for the opportunity you now have?
A lot of people don't notice, but when I first started coaching the offensive line, I was a GA for Coach Cristobal and Mirabal at FIU back in 2011. And so I remember I left Florida A&M, and I was a tight ends coach at the time, and left Florida A&M to be a GA at FIU. And I had no offensive line experience at all. Didn't play it. Was a tight end. Didn't play it. So, Coach Cristobal, when he hired me, he was like, "Hey, you're gonna work with the offensive line." And I was like, "Coach, you want me to work with the O line?" He was like, "Yeah, it'll be the best thing you've done in coaching," and it has been, especially with Coach Cristobal and Coach Mirabal, being in that room with Coach Mirabal, and he just taught me my foundation of O line play. And I think if you can coach the offensive line, you can coach anything. And it taught me the run game, of course, but it opened up everything else in football for me. But my foundation in coaching is from Coach Murbaugh. Everything that I teach from my philosophy, a lot of it, to the foundation of the fundamentals, it comes from Coach Murbaugh. And I honestly can say that that's probably the best thing that happened to me in my coaching career was actually getting in that room and learn from him.
That's incredible. And for you being back at FIU, you mentioned you coached there before. You also played there. So was it like a full circle moment? Did it feel just so familiar when you went back to FIU? Well,
the first time it was different because there was a lot of new buildings. And then the second time back around this time, it definitely was. But it was just to see how much the program has grown. I even saw it back in 2011 when Coach Cristobal was there from 7 to 2013, how the program had changed in the trajectory that it was on then. And to come back now, you can still see there's some growth. I think our trajectory is probably going faster with Coach Cristobal, but I can see the growth now. And to be back in that room, in the same room now as a GA in that room, and now running the room as the offensive line coach, that definitely was full circle for me.
Well, we got more coming up here with Coach Ed Pata because I want to get his take on some of these Miami offensive linemen who are headed to the National Football League. Like he's coached Big CC, Big Markel Bell, Anez Cooper, who I think is one of the more underrated players in the entire country. I think whoever drafts him is going to be in for a pleasant surprise. So you want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Folks, hiring isn't just about finding someone who's willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. I know if I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your posts get seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Folks, we're also proudly brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. Guys, I know that using Game Time for Miami Heat tickets has taken a lot of headaches out of my life. I love seeing the all-in price up front. There are no surprise fees at checkout with Game Time. Being able to see the view from your seat before buying makes the decision easy. Great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Guys, the prices get better at the last minute. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, all one word, locked on for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. We have the pleasure of being joined by Edwin Pata, offensive line coach at FIU, former assistant O-line coach at the University of Miami. So, Ed, we're looking forward to the NFL draft in April, and it's no mystery. Mauigoa is going to be a first-round pick. Just the question is how high. Markel Bell, I'm sure, is also going to be drafted, and Anez Cooper, I would imagine, is going to be drafted. Can you talk about these guys? Because you had the chance to work hands-on with them and what they're going to bring to the National Football League.
Wow, good question. CC, I've had the privilege, honestly, to watch him and Coop, but to watch their maturation come in as freshmen, watch us recruit him coming out of high school. And we all saw CC was just a gifted, talented football player. But a lot of the things that people don't see is the intangible, the type of kid that he is, the work ethic that he had and still has was like no other. I remember him and Samson Okololo came together, and just the work ethic that they had as freshmen coming in, I think they set the standard early of what type of players they were going to be. And I think Samson is also developing and becoming that player as well that we thought they would be out of high school. But CC was just a special player. He was a kid coming in where he saw football differently, was able to see football before he can probably verbalize it. And then once all that once he was able to put all that together, you see what he's become now as a football player. Just a dominant, unbelievably gifted football player. But he's also worked tremendously hard to get to what he's going to get to in the pros. Coop, man, the maturation that he's shown, especially coming from small town Alabama and coming to a big city like Miami, and him coming out of his shell after about his first year, I'm proud of what Coop has become, the leadership that he's shown. I can even see it even this past season, just watching him during the games. He's a sneaky good tackler that people don't know about, which I think is going to help him in the pros. Coop's a good athlete, played defensive line coming out of high school, and he's a sneaky athlete. I think that's going to help him in the pros play a long time. On top of the work ethic that he has, the intangible leadership skills that he's had, you can tell. I'm sure he was one of the captains for the team. He's a tremendous player in the room for the O-line room, a tremendous leader, vocal, and a leader by example that you would want in your room. So I think he's going to have really good success at the next level. And then Markel Bell, man, long. We had so many nicknames for him. I used to call him Mount Bell, Kel Bell. Just him coming out of junior college in Mississippi. The first thing that pops to me was how motivated and driven he was to get to where he's at today. Just how mature he was and how locked in he was to development, to becoming a better overall football player. Another kid that you had to drag out of the weight room, always getting extra work in, always trying to develop his craft, always working on details to become the where he's going to be a draftable guy now. I think with him and his length and his athleticism, how long he plays, and I mean by how he can protect with his length and how tall he is, and how he can play with leverage. I think that's going to help him be a pretty good draft offensive tackle in the NFL as well.
Love it. And these are guys, of course, Ed Pata helped develop at Miami, and you've got your own room at FIU, and I'm hoping to get down to some more games this year at FIU as well, Coach. And tell us about your offensive line heading into next year at FIU and who fans should watch out for.
Well, and for us, we developed or had to get an entire new room. So we lost some guys to the portal, which it's going to be G5 coaching, what we deal with guys trying to get an opportunity to go play at the P4. So we lost the bulk of our room. Now, we did return a former Miami Hurricane in Antonio Tripp.
I love Tripp.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're taking good care of him there. I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, he done a good job, man. He started every game for us last year. He's going to be one of the glue pieces in that room to keep us on a trajectory that we want to stay on at FIU. I don't know if you know, but we broke a couple of rushing records at FIU. We didn't break Coach Miraball's all-time rushing record. Yeah, we were 140 yards short. But we did break the single season rushing record for an individual in Key John Owens. But in our room, we got a couple of transfer pieces that's going to help us continue. I was able to play 7 offensive linemen. So outside of Antonio Tripp, we got a kid named Zaire Florno, who was a UAB transfer, who's experienced, who played a lot for us last year, started actually 2 games for us last year towards the end of the season, who's I think is ready for now to be a full-time starter and take that next step for us that we're going to need. And then we have some plug-and-play guys that we're going to see that are transferring in that I think is going to help us immediately while we get ready for the next season, keep our trajectory going the right way.
I love that. And we're talking with Ed Pata, and he's the brother, the older brother of the late Brian Pata, who was a classmate of ours, who's always on the hearts and minds of Miami fans. And Coach, I think this is something you've spoken on before. How do you try to use your platform as a prominent coach in the community and a prominent member of the South Florida community to honor your brother's memory and legacy?
Man, one, I know this is if that was social media, how it is today, because back then we just had Facebook and MySpace. But I'm sure Brian would have been doing the same thing for me. And for us, Brian was such a big piece. He was the baby of our family. I'm the 8th child. He was the 9th. So we were obviously close. And what he meant to Miami, us being born and raised down here, we moved all over the city of Miami. I went to several schools. I know for sure, especially with the trial coming up, to keep his name going, and that's why we started the foundation. It was the most important piece for us, is to always keep Brian's name in our community because how much he loved the community. So if I can use my platform just to prevent what happened to Brian to ever happen again. and always talk about gun violence, always talk about issues that could sometimes hurt our community in the city of Miami, I'm gonna do that. Because I think that's the least I can do for him is have the foundation, continue to keep his name going through the events that we do, because he was just a bright star from the city, from the University of Miami, from Miami Central, from North Miami, and we want to keep that light shining as much as we can. And this platform is just a small piece of what we can use and do to keep his name going.
Well, God bless you, and I'll be thinking about your family with the trial coming up, especially. But man, it's been a pleasure catching up with Ed Pata. I'm keeping my eye on the great things you're doing at FIU, and I love Antonio Tripp, man. I'm so glad again that he's there because I followed his recruitment very closely when he arrived at Miami. So huge thank you to Coach Pata. Huge thank you to the everydayers, and we'll talk to everybody next time. Locked On Canes. We are part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.